To my session. Oops, I'll start over. Good morning. Welcome to my session. Going to be talking about PANDA and the services we provide and how to navigate our wonderful website. My name is Wendy Sweeney, and I am the manager for PANDA. We provide disability assistance for free to adult ed across the state of Minnesota. We have a small group here today, so please feel free to ask questions along the way. So these are the things that we will be going over. I will first give you just an overview of what our services entail, and then we're going to dig into navigating the website. I will show you several tools that are available to you in your program, how to accommodate students, and also share some mental health supports. So I'll start with our mission statement, which I will let you read for a second here. But mainly we provide disability support in order to increase academic opportunities for students. So we have a lot of equity and inclusion. And as I said, our services are free and we're funded through a grant from the Minnesota Department of Ed. So these are the staff in our program, myself, and then my administrator, Maura Knudsen. And we also have a teacher consultant, Erin Parker, who is a basic skills teacher and special education certified from the Robbinsdale Academic Program. So here's a quick overview of our services. First, we do consultative services, so answering any questions that may come to mind, a student that might be struggling, and I'll delve a little bit more into that. Our lending library of tools, also free, we mail them out to you. Obviously, the professional development, do a lot of trainings on disability and mental health topics. Our website and adult learner intervention, which I'll be describing. And we also have an advisory committee, which consists of program managers and teachers across the state of Minnesota. So when should you contact PANDA? So here are some examples. When a student discloses they have a disability and you have questions about how to accommodate them, or you might suspect a student has a disability, then you can reach out to ask me questions about that particular student. If there's any assistive technology or adaptive equipment needs, and if you have any questions about accommodations, I can help you walk through those and answer those questions. And if the student's having any kind of learning concerns, such as not making level gains, having some mental health challenges, acting out in class, memory or attention challenges. So I always like to point out that the apparent and non-apparent disabilities. I think oftentimes people think of a student with a disability, something you can see, something physical you can see, as in the picture there on the left. So somebody in a wheelchair, hearing loss, has a cane, any of those types of things, you would know to ask the student what you can do to accommodate them. But oftentimes, and actually more often than not, I get questions about non-apparent or hidden disabilities, meaning you wouldn't know the student has any kind of disability unless they were to disclose it to you. And sometimes students don't know that they have a disability. So it's typically things such as dyslexia, ADHD, brain injury, mental health challenges. Those are all hidden. So now we're going to delve into some of the tools to help students with learning challenges and disabilities. So I would encourage you to pull up our website so you can follow along with me at pandamn.org. I think Jody's going to put that in the chat box as well. I'm going to have you go into the website a bit later to take a look at some things. So whoops, I'm sorry, that didn't work. There it is. Okay, here's our website. And sorry, my name's in the way. Kind of move it. So here's our website on the home page, and you can see we have a bar at the top. This is really important for you to pay attention to because this is where a lot of the tools that I'm talking about can be found. So on our main page, it's just an introduction with our mission statement. There's a link right here that you can click on to email us. Or you could also send a disability helpline form. And this was just, we put on the website to make it simple. If you don't have time to do an email, just check off what might be going on with the student, answer a few questions as best you can. And then when you hit submit, it comes back to right into my email. Okay. Then you can see on the right side, these are all the categories that we have in our website. And I'm going to touch base and walk through one of the categories. You can go to the About page, and that just tells you about the staff and summarizes our services if you want a quick little summary there. And then there's also testimonials at the bottom. So you can click into the categories on the left here, or you can click on it on the bar, and the home pages for each category pop up. So either way, whatever's easier for you is a way to look into it. And then we have ABE information about the Minnesota ABE website, link about the ABE staff, and the hotline for Literacy Minnesota. So you can find them here and many other places as well. But also sums up all of the support network providers for adult ed, which includes ourselves. Now, the Forms tab is an important one. This is where you can find some really great tools. First, the Disability Helpline is on here again. So you have two different places you can find that. We have specialized intake forms for students with blindness or vision loss, stroke or brain injury, or deafness or hearing loss. So if a student comes into your program, let's just pull up the blindness or vision loss as an example. We have this quite lengthy intake form, first off, telling you about our Minneapolis Adult Ed, which is our vision loss site. And when a student program reaches out to me and says, hey, a student who is blind just came into our program, I will typically refer the student to our vision loss site. The reason being they have all of the equipment already, Braille materials, Braillers. They have teachers that know how to work with students with vision loss. And so I will recommend that. But sometimes if the student is from Greater Minnesota, for example, or it's inconvenient for them to go to that site, then this is what you would need to learn about. Some of the, we have instructional strategies that are videos under our vision loss and blindness category. State Services for the Blind is a community organization that is free, that they can apply to get their services. They will support the student with Braille materials. They teach keen skills and how to use technology, and then and kind of delving into vision loss. But then down here is where we have specific questions that you might not know to ask for a student who has vision loss or blindness. So this is for you to use when you need it. There's also a release at the bottom of the page. So if you find out that the student has a caseworker or a guardian, and you want to share information or find out what their needs might be, it's good to connect with that individual if the student's willing to sign the release. If you do get any of the students with these types of disabilities, you can then apply for what's called low incidence disability aid. And this is an application to get an elevated rate for serving that student and really to encourage you to accept students who have these certain disabilities. So this is where you would find the application. It's fairly simple. Um, you do have, the student has to be, I think it's 40 hours they have to have attended before you can apply, but there's kind of some step-by-step instructions, and then you will have to attach some documentation showing their disability, which could just be from a doctor. So that application comes directly to me and I review it, ask questions. If you're missing anything, I will get in touch with you. And I do that in collaboration with MDE. The next one I want to show you is what we call our supplemental intake. And this we developed because when we started looking at typical registrations at many programs, either they didn't have a question or it was a very broad question. Typically, do you have a learning disability? And that term can be confusing for a lot of people. And so we wanted to make it more specific by just asking that question: have you ever been diagnosed with a condition that could impact your learning? With some examples. So this is what I really have been encouraging programs to add to their initial registration forms. Now, by law, the student, if they do have a disability, does not have to disclose it, but it doesn't hurt to ask. If they have, if they say no, you're done. But if they click yes, then you can pull out the second page of this form where it asks very specific information about their particular learning challenges and what's impacting it. So we'll ask if they've ever had an individualized education plan or an IEP, which is what the K to 12 special education departments use in order to accommodate students. And typically an IEP means extra staff is needed to help that student, as opposed to the 504 plan, which is typically not needing to use staff, but still getting some accommodations. For instance, an individual that may have ADHD would typically get a 504 plan. So they might just need some extra time and some breaks, and that wouldn't involve staff time. And then you can see all the questions that can be asked, also about finding out their specific needs, what kind of classroom accommodations would be helpful with some examples. If they have any documentation that you can put in their file, and then asking if they have a caseworker, social worker, a legal guardian. And if they click yes to that, again, there's that consent for release for information if you want to get more information about that. This intake is in several different languages, and I'll just pull up one of them. It's kind of cool to see Hmong and how it is written. So we put these in all different languages so that if the student has literacy skills in their cultural native lands, then they could fill this out on their own. And it's worded exactly as it is in English, that translation. And something fun that we did at the Crystal Learning Center, where our office is housed, is we printed all the different languages up and put them out on a desk in the hallway. So during the break, students could take those forms, and the students got really excited to see their language in print. So it's just a way to, hmm, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about something else, not on the intake form. That's the wellness, mental wellness, excuse me. I went off on a tangent there. All right, so now what I'd like you to do is to go in to take a look at that supplemental intake form. And I'm giving you a little bit of a case study to help you out here. But if a student comes in and tells you they have dyslexia, I want you to practice using that form. If you can print it up, that would be fabulous. If you cannot print it up, just take a look at that registration form. And we're going to give it about 5 minutes and then come back to tell us what that was like for you. You all have a chance to set enough time for you to take a look at that registration form. Just set it out in the chat if you had enough time or if you need more time. Okay, great. Let's go back to the group then. And feel free to turn on your mic and ask any questions about this form. One question I have is, do you think it would be helpful for your program? In either chat, or you can turn off your mute button.
I really appreciated how thorough that form was. I do intake kind of screenings for the DOC to see if our students need any additional like accommodations, and our form is nowhere near as thorough as that one. So I might bring that to my supervisor and ask if that's something we can potentially use.
Great. Good to know, Jesse. Any other comments? Oops. Okay, let's go back into the website again. I'm going to show you some other things. And let me know if you have any questions about that registration form. If you're I want to finish up at the bar here. So we did the forms bar. We also have our professional development. These are free online courses you can take. A lot of them are in relation to mental health, and you get CEUs that meet relicensure requirements as well. And then in each of the categories, we have community resources, but we also put a link here on the bar. If you're only looking for resources, this is a little quicker way to get to it. So for instance, if you're looking for some mental health resources, then you can see here we have a lot of free crisis lines. We have mental health crisis response, and you can click to find your county phone number. And this is actually teams in every county that will come to your workplace or to the school or to their home if there's a mental health crisis. It's an alternative to calling 911. But then we also have Metro and Greater Minnesota low cost or sliding fee clinics for you. So just kind of showing you that we have resources for every one of these. The other thing I want to point out is we just recently added an audio button to all the pages. So if you're more of an oral learner, then you may want to use that, but also for any students who want the screen reader. I'm gonna walk you through one of the categories just to show you they're all structured very similarly. So I'm going to walk through the ADHD one just to show you what's in each of these categories. So if a student discloses they have ADHD, this is a place to get more information about what it is, how it's identified and diagnosed. And then there's instructional strategies. So for the teachers, this is a great place to get some strategies for their student. And another great thing we have in each one of those instructional strategies subcategories there, we put those into a PDF that can be printed up. So if a teacher is saying, I have a student with ADHD, I'm not sure what to do. Oh, here, I'll print this up for you. And then they can pick and choose what kind of strategies they might want to use rather than having to look through the website. And then there's also some classroom challenges, ELL considerations, and then the resources, as I said, you can get at the bar or you can get them here. So there's a lot of locations. If a student wanted to get tested for ADHD in the Metro and Greater Minnesota, along with other resources. The next thing I want to share with you is information about our lending. So we keep all kinds of equipment in our lending library that we loan out to programs when they request them. And there are, uh, we have a lot of multisensory tools, which accesses all parts of the brain. I think all students should be using multisensory tools. I'm going to show you some examples of that. We have and the blind for blindness or vision loss, we have all kinds of reading classes at different strengths that we can send out a sampling to your program. We have all kinds of magnifiers, handheld or tabletop. We have a computer screen magnifiers, large print keyboards, and desktop video magnifiers, which are you can for somebody who has more severe vision loss, it can get the font as high as they would need it to be. We also have testing materials, large print and braille testing materials. Also, in the, let's say, reading, we have, again, some of those multisensory sand trays. We have tactile letters, magnetic letters, line readers, fonts for dyslexia, things like that. So why don't you let you know about this category. And here's kind of a sampling, so you can see more pictures. You see all the different pencil holders. We have math manipulatives. We have amplifiers, adaptive mice, tubaloos. Here's a picture of a line reader. We have several different types of line readers. And the textured letters you can see there, where they can feel it, and it does access a different part of the brain. So chat out one tool that you might be able to use in your program. Brain readers. What you have to do in order to request a tool is just to send an email out to panda@ardale.org, or you can send it direct to my email, and we will mail the tools out to you. If we don't have something in our lending library that's listed, we can purchase equipment if you have a specific need. For instance, we had a program reach out to us who they had a student who was in a wheelchair, and she could not get her wheelchair under their desks or tables because she was too high up. So we ended up purchasing a table that could be that was higher, so that she could have a place to do her work. Now I want to take you into accommodations, which is another category on our site. So this will help you to guide you when a student comes in and needs accommodations, what you can do for them. So we have an overview about disability laws, about accommodating students. We have CASAS and TABE. We have information about how you would accommodate. So with the CASAS and TABE, it's not as formal. You don't have to apply for accommodations, but you do need to follow the publisher guidelines. And we have those guidelines listed here. So this is just a one stop shop where you can look at all of some of the examples, and then the link to get to the guidelines as well. Same with TABE, same information, but with the TABE guidelines and what their requirements are. And what I usually tell, if the student doesn't have documentation, I usually recommend that they contact me to go through the adult learner intervention, which I'm going to show you in a minute, so that you can have documentation to put in their file where I do an interview and get more information about the student. And then, of course, the more adult diploma, which also you don't have to supply documentation in order to give, but classroom accommodations particularly, or modifying, is again, same situation where I usually ask them to go through an intervention if they reach out. But GED, of course, has more formal requirements. You do have to apply for them. And here it walks you through how to do that. They have 4 different categories that a student can apply under. So sometimes it's easier to get accommodations, let's say if it's ADHD as opposed to dyslexia. But you do have to have documentation in order to get those accommodations. And then HiSET, which I'm not sure how many people are using that quite yet, but excuse me, HiSET has, according to the manager who I've spoken to, they're not quite as stringent about that documentation. It could be an old IEP, for instance. And they have the same similar thing where they have the different categories, but to find the links on how to get those accommodations, they're right on our website.
Wendy, we have
Now I'm gonna
10 minutes left in the session.
Okay. We'll make this quick. Thank you, Astrid. So I do want to walk you through that adult learner intervention. And this was developed to help teachers when they may have a student they suspect has a disability, but they're not sure. So there are 4 steps, all online. First, there's an overview talking about it. Step 1, you would read through whether the student is born in the United States, born and raised in the United States, or an English language learner. And you look at the bullets. If they meet these characteristics, then you follow the directions underneath. Same with the English language learner. If not, you go to step 2. And that shows 7 different scenarios. We piloted this, and this tended to be the most common. And so you would look through those the bullets in the red, determine which one the student meets the majority of, and then you follow the instructions on what kind of strategies to implement before we go to step 3. If those work, then you're good. If you still need assistance, then you go to step 3. And that's more or less reaching out to me so that we can have a discussion about what's going on with the student and decide if we should go on to step 4. And that's where I do an interview and screening process with the student. And I just would need you to fill out the online intake form as best as you can. And then to also do the I'm sorry, the thing's in my way. I can't move my mouse. I would then have you do the going back in here. Sorry about that. There's also a student consent form they would need to complete so that they're agreeing to the interview. And that I can then be in contact with you about what I find out. And so then I typically, once I have those 2 forms, I will reach out to you and schedule an appointment to do a phone interview where I ask much more in-depth questions about the students' support network, their medical background, vision, hearing, mental health, what their goals are. So I get more in depth to try to determine what might be at the root of the learning challenges. And then I also have some screenings that I do when it seems they would be helpful. And once I'm done, I write a report, send it out to your program, and discuss the student situation and make suggestions to continue helping the student make progress. All right, the last thing I want to do is show you our mental health tip sheets. So these are on our home page. Right in the center here. And also in the mental health category. And you can see the link down towards the bottom. And these are what I was talking about earlier that I went off on like a senior moment there. But these were developed as a way to teach students how, we all know how to stay physically healthy. That's very well documented and lots of information out there to learn how to stay physically healthy. But rarely do people talk about how to stay mentally healthy. And so I developed this tip sheet. It's just 10 tips. These are things you can either use in the classroom or you can print up the different languages, as I had mentioned, and put them out for students to take. It's a way to reduce stigma. And this is what I was mentioning before. But we did print these all up in all the different languages and put them out on the tables for students to take during their break. And they got really excited to see their language in print. So this is another tool that can be used in any way you choose. So there are the mental health tip sheets. All right, so I think we're about out of time here. I want to encourage you to use all of our resources. As I said, they're all free to you. They were all developed for you. If you have any questions at all, do feel free to reach out to me. I am here to support you. Does anyone have any questions before we end the session?
We have about 5 more minutes before we need to wrap up, so people should feel free to ask a couple questions here. We've got a little time.
Well, I really want to encourage you to look closer at that adult learner intervention. That was something I was going to have you do, but I think we didn't have enough time for that. But take a few minutes to really take a look through the website and all it has to offer. You may not have a student that you have in mind at this moment that you suspect might have a disability, but to become a little more familiar with it before that happens, because it's bound to, I will really encourage you to continue to use our website and reach out whenever you have any questions. Does anybody have any other questions or comments before we close? You can send in the chat or unmute. Any other comments? Thank you, Krista, for your comment. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone has any questions.
Thank you so much, Wendy. And encourage
welcome.
everyone to take advantage of these amazing resources and the expertise at PANDA. Thanks for being here today. Thanks to Jody for co-hosting the session.
Yes, thank you both for hosting. Enjoy the rest of your conference, everyone.